Well, good afternoon, everybody. We'll just wait another minute or two for folks to get on. But today we are going to be discussing a little bit different of a webinar. Usually we're talking about our properties and the various countries, but today we're going to give a little bit of an insight what it's like to join our next discovery tour. We do have one coming up in August from the 10th to the 16th. But I know for a lot of folks, you haven't been to Nicaragua, so just wanted to give a little bit of insight as to what that is going to look like. If you don't mind, there is a chat box at the bottom of the screen. Feel free to find that. If you have questions along the way, we're going to get to those at the end. So feel free to put those in, and then Jake will be monitoring those, and he can get those asked at the end. But if you have any questions, put them there, or you can put into an email. Our email is webinar@ecidevelopment.com. We will make sure to get those addressed if you're watching this maybe after the live session. Couple other housekeepings. We will send out the recording of this. So if you're not able to join the full time, we will send that. Or if you want to share it with anyone you know, I'm more than happy for you to share those links with those folks as well. I don't know if I introduced myself, but I'm Joe Nagel. I'm one of the property consultants with ECI Development. Been around for a little over 5 years now. Do a lot in Belize and Nicaragua, frequently on our Nicaragua tours for folks to answer questions and whatnot. But I'm joined today with my colleague, Jake. Jake, maybe unmute and just say a quick hi, and then we'll get rolling.
Yeah, how's it going, everybody? My name is Jake LaFrenz. I'm a little bit newer with the company than Joe is, but obviously love going down to Nicaragua and being a part of it. I was there in August for our previous Discovery tour. I'll be on this one in August, so it'll be a great time. I really hope some of you can come join me.
Mhm. Sure. So we're just going to go ahead and kick it off. For folks that are going to be joining us, the first day, it's really just to get there. I mean, for some folks, that means leaving at crack of dawn. Other folks maybe have a little bit easier of a flight. But the first day really is to just kind of shepherd folks to get to Nicaragua. More specifically, we will be staying at the Hyatt Place right in Managua. There's a couple of reasons we like to do that just from a strategic location perspective, but the goal is to get everyone there that first day so we can really start day two off with the various introductions and places we're going to see. But we'll just get everyone there. There's no rush. If your flight gets delayed or whatever, we just want to make sure you get there on August 10th. That's when you're to check into the hotel. And we do like this hotel specifically for one reason, and that's that it's connected to the mall. So you'll see the bridge there. It's right across from the mall, which I think sometimes people see a mall and they're like, well, what kind of mall is it going to look like? It's a very high-end Nicaraguan mall. They have a lot of the name brands, but there's a lot of good restaurants. So if you get there kind of midday and you want a lunch, there's a lot of places you can walk over and have that. Or if you get in a little bit later, you can have dinner or something like that. So you have the ability to kind of go as you please that first day, because some people are really, really tired and just want to nap and sleep and catch up for day two so they're ready. But that's where you'll be day one. We'll be checking in and all rendezvousing at the Hyatt place there in Managua. So here's just another photo. You can see it's really nice. If you want to catch a movie, if you're a movie buff, I always like to get a movie in there. They're like $6 or something. It's insanely cheap. And so you can do that. You can see for Christmas, it was decorated with a beautiful Christmas tree. So I think for a lot of people, the expectations is like this little outdoor mall with maybe a couple like little shops, but no, there's a lot to do here. So when you get in, you can walk across very easily before the formal tour starts. But Jake, I know you said that was quite a surprise to see. What were your
Yeah.
first impressions there?
Yeah, when I was down there in March for the first time, you hear about Nicaragua and you think it's a little bit more underdeveloped, and sure parts of it are, but you come into a mall like this and I
Hmm.
was wowed about how big it was. I walked around the whole thing and there's food courts, all these really nice shops. You won't necessarily find me going into a Burberry, kind of store, but they're there. If you like that kind of stuff, go ahead. If you can see in the picture, there's Zara, Adidas store. So there's a lot of different opportunities. And like, like I said, just really wowed me. There's places to get supplements and other medicines and stuff like there in the mall as well. So yeah, it's very, very developed.
Right. And that's why we like to start there just for folks, have any kind of things they need to get, there's the mall right there. But
Mhm.
but that second day, so once you've got a nice full night of sleep, we're going to start the next day with breakfast and a little meet and greet. So, very usually diverse group of folks that join us on these tours from all over. A lot of people tend to have kind of similar characteristics of what they're looking for, either a place to retire or investments or whatnot. But yeah, it's a great time to kind of meet the others. That way, you know each other's names and not just say, hey, to the various people on the tour. But we try to keep it around 15. So it's a nice group. Everyone can start to kind of know what's going on with each other. So it's a nice size. But from there, we'll have the great breakfast there at the hotel. One of my favorites when I go to Nicaragua is called queso frito. It's a fried cheese. I know a lot of folks think of like the fried cheese we see in the US, but the fried cheese there is this, I don't know how to describe it. It's kind of weird, but it's really good. It's one of my favorites. But the buffet has fresh juices, a lot of fresh fruit. Great way to start the morning. But with that, we'll also have a talk from a local attorney. So for folks that want to have questions about setting up local companies, residency is usually the biggest topic. That's a great time to do it. A lot of people have various, different circumstances. You're a retiree, maybe you can qualify for a retirement program. Maybe you're an investor, so those are the great times to have these conversations with the local attorneys because, like I said, each case is different, and they can kind of help walk you through that. We'll obviously give you those kind of contact details going forward. So if you said, hey, I really appreciated that presentation and I want to talk through my details, we'll get you connected with those attorneys. But yeah, really great informational session just to start the tour off with. And then from there, we'll give you a couple minutes to grab your bags from your rooms, pack up, and then we're going to hit the road. So we're not going to go too far on our first stop, but we're just going to let you see what Nicaragua and Managua specifically is like. So we'll stop by the grocery store, which here's a picture here. Like I said, if someone forgot anything last minute, toothbrushes, toothpaste, whatever, you have access to that. If you like snacks, specific snacks, I know sometimes people have dietary restrictions. There's a great chance to get that kind of stuff. But I just like to show because the grocery stores are so well stocked, very well organized. There's all the kind of things you can imagine, and the costs are very, very inexpensive. So that's kind of why it's a great first stop for folks once we leave the hotel. But from there, we'll also show you the Vivian Pellis Hospital. It's a JCI accredited hospital, very beautiful, state of the art. I know, not everyone wants to go and see a hospital for various reasons, but, it's good to know that if you're going to be living there, that you have access to that should you need it. And they also have really great care for folks, for foreigners and whatnot. So, it's good to know it exists, but, it's just to go and see it so you know where it is. But then from there, we will head to the hardware store. Jake, I'll let you talk a little bit about that and our next stops.
Yeah, so we'll be going over to the Cinsa hardware store. It's a fantastic opportunity to see, again, something that you may not think that Nicaragua has. It's very comparative to a Lowe's or a Home Depot, maybe not as big, but the same gist. Cinsa's and actually a family-owned and operated company for almost 30 years, and it is the largest home improvement retailer in the country as well. So as you can see here, that's the outside of the store. You can't miss it if you're driving by it with colors like that, trust me. And then, on the right, obviously get in there, everybody takes a picture. You have any questions about what's available, myself or some of the other tour guides can help you answer some of those questions by asking one of the people that work there. So absolutely great opportunity to see.
Yeah. And they also have a lot of the name brands, DeWalt, Milwaukee. I mean, you don't think that they would have a bunch of that in Nicaragua, but plenty. But yeah, these are the kind of things we want you to see because, if you decide to come on the tour, you like Nicaragua, one day you move there, you want to see that you have access to that. And it's
Right.
not some, 2-week hassle to order it online and all that. So you can get a lot of things in country. A lot of folks always ask, well, should I bring this? Should I bring that? A lot of the time the answer is no. Sell it unless it's some kind of heirloom that's super important to you. Sell it, come down to the country, and you're usually able to get a lot of great stuff, handmade stuff in country. So, but those are the kind of experiences. And then go ahead, Jake.
Yeah, so then after that, we will head up to Selva Negra. It's up in the highlands of Matagalpa. This is the mountain country or mountain countryside part of Nicaragua, and actually the capital country of or cap coffee capital of the country. Man, that's tough. But you go up to Selva Negra. It's absolutely beautiful. It's quite it's a little bit of a longer drive, not terrible. One thing to note when you come up here and we stay at Selva Negra, it gets a little chilly at night, so please bring a jacket, a hoodie with you. But we get an awesome trip up here. It's absolutely beautiful. Joe, if you go to the next slide, we'll take a look at this little video. This is just kind of be, what you're going to be expecting to see in the morning, drinking your morning coffee, beautiful mountains, pond, lake. And then obviously here you can see on the left, everybody sitting there eating breakfast in the morning. Oh, there's a couple beer bottles. Maybe that's not breakfast, but yeah, it's a, full
It's always
restaurant
beer
right there.
clock.
What was that?
It's always beer clock.
Yeah, that's true. You're in Nicaragua. Why not? But Selva Negra is absolutely beautiful. Yeah, we go through a farm tour, a coffee tour. Um, it's an eco lodge, and you can look it up on Selva Negra on Google. You can see how beautiful it is. It, runs as an eco lodge, hotel, Airbnb, all of that. You can see here going through the regenerative farming stages, coffee farm picture in the middle. You get in there, put your hands in the coffee beans, get an idea of it. They've got a little store on site for you if you want to get some coffee to bring home. I have some. It's delicious, so I really recommend it. But the farm tour is very immersive. Our tour guides, I must say, are fantastic. These people, is what they're paid to do, but they really enjoy it. They make you laugh. We're always having a good time on the bus. It's great. So Salva Negra is beautiful and one of my favorite places to wake up in the morning.
And pro tip, I mean, Managua certainly in August will be warm. So if you're someone who likes to wear shorts and t-shirts are a must. But you
Mhm.
will see in this photo, some people are still in some kind of a short capacity, but you see people with jackets and we don't need like big puffer jackets or anything like that. But it can get kind of cool once you're used to the nice heat during the day in Managua. So definitely bring something a little bit longer for that capacity, especially if you're someone who gets cold fast. But once you finish up the farm tour, and really the goal of seeing Salvanegra is just to see that there is the highlands of Nicaragua. It's where the coffee's grown. It's a little bit cooler of a climate. So if you're someone who likes that element, you've got access to that in the country. I know, Mike, our CEO, lived in Nicaragua for 14 years, and he would frequently come up here with his family just to get a little bit cooler of a climate for the weekend, do some fun things that you can't really do when you're more with like a place like at the beach or whatnot. So from that
Yeah.
farm tour, we'll get lunch at one of my favorite places, Dona Facundo. It's right by Salvanegra, so quick little jump over there. Great view. You'll never expect it. You go through this little road, and then it comes out to one of the most breathtaking views. Great meat joint. I know maybe there'll be some vegetarians. They can absolutely take that into account. So don't worry if you're someone with some dietary restrictions, we can make that work. But a great steak place. So highly recommend it. That's the churrasco in the middle. It's kind of like a filet mignon that they kind of cut and turn it into this little bit of a longer, skinnier piece of meat, but it's super tender, very good with the chimichurri. So one of my favorite stops, and then you got the plantains and whatnot on the
Yeah,
farm.
if you're down there in Nicaragua with me, it's pretty, I gotta say, it's pointless to ask me, hey, what do you recommend? What are you gonna get? I'm getting the churrasco every time without
Yeah.
failure. I'm sorry, but it's so delicious.
Right. And then from lunch, another thing it's really cool to see, we're going to do a strawberry tour. So you get to see that, see all their organic practices that they take into consideration. I, in a million years, would have never thought, Nicaragua strawberries, those two words just never crossed my mind. You think coffee, you think of all that, a lot of citrus and whatnot. But I don't know, for some reason, strawberries were not, but it's cool to see their setup. We got a nice little smoothie of strawberries afterwards. So it's a cool little experience to get to see what they got going on up in that kind of mountainous region.
Mhm.
And then once we finish up the strawberry tour, we'll head back to Salvanegra where we'll have dinner and then we'll do a night tour. And I know, Jake, you were on the night tour last time. So what did you guys see when you were out there?
I sure was. So it's great. You start off at, you get flashlights and everything so you can stay on trail. You're in the woods, You start off on a paved trail and then we head off into the woods. So it's very immersive, it's very fun. The tour guide who leads it, not me, you can't trust me with that. I'll get us lost for sure. But he's fantastic. He's not afraid he literally, if you see the spider, it's actually, if you're familiar with Harry Potter, one of the famous spiders from that actually is right there. He climbed up the tree to go grab the spider for us. So I'm not the one holding the spider in that. You couldn't pay me enough, but it's fun. You see a lot of different kind of wildlife. Some of the pictures that we have that aren't here are, some of these giant, beautiful butterflies or moths and stuff like that. It's really, really great. Get to see some frogs. You see them holding the frogs there, but they're very selective on how we handle some of this wildlife too. Some of these are really, you know, just creatures that you need to be careful with. So it's great. They do a fantastic job, and he'll joke with you, watch out for mountain lions or pumas, and didn't see any of those, but you keep your head on a swivel. But it's very, very fun and very, very safe.
Nice. Well, that will conclude day 3. So that next morning we'll pack up, get the group together, get on the bus, and head to Granada, which is one of the oldest cities. This is the cathedral here. We stay at a hotel that's the view. So I mean, it's walking distance to the main square, to the cathedral. So it's really, really beautiful. Jake, maybe talk about the history a little bit about Granada. I know you talked about it on our Nicaragua tour, our webinar we had last time out.
Yeah, so Granada it's a treat really to go in there. It's an old city, one of the oldest colonial cities in all of the Americas. It was founded in 1524 by Francisco Hernandez de Cordoba. He was a Spanish conquistador. So Granada itself is really a place that's rooted in a lot of Spanish colonial architecture, cobblestone streets, and just beautiful to walk through. And of course, it's right there up on Lake Nicaragua, but um, it really holds a lot of history, and people are really proud of that. You can see the La Catedral de Granada there. It was built in 1583. Now, of course, with Nicaragua, in its rich history, there was a lot of pirates and civil issues that go on through a long history of, especially that being around since the 1500s, and it was destroyed, and had some issues come to it throughout the years, but it was fully rebuilt and restored in 1915, and now it stands as a symbol for resiliency for the city itself.
Mhm. Very beautiful and very colorful architecture. You'll notice
Very,
that
very much.
very different from where we are when we're up in the highlands. But
Mhm.
and bring your bathing suit. And you see, we got
Yeah.
some
Little
water.
indoor hotel pool. You can't go wrong with that.
But once we get checked in there, we have a really one of my favorite things that we do on the tour, which is the island tour. So we'll get in the little boat here, and the Nicaragua has 2 very big lakes, and we won't get too much into the details here because we did do a Nicaragua 101 webinar a couple weeks ago. But we do a fun little boat ride throughout the lake. That's Lake Nicaragua. They have many, many islands that formed over the years with the volcanoes. So we'll do a little tour of that. There's some really cool things you're going to see on this tour. Kind of a little bit of a spoiler alert, but we'll show you. So I know these are some of Jake's videos that he enjoyed, so we'll just play them so you can kind of see.
Yep, that is the volcano Mombacho. It is a dormant strata volcano, and it last erupted in 1570, so you don't have to worry about that. And then there's a crater trail along the rim of it, and then as you can see there, we got howler monkeys that they take over. They make sure that we get to go see some of them. So they are some of the fattest howler monkeys I've ever seen. So they're something good on that little island of theirs, but. No, it's very, very cool. And fun trip, fun trip. And honestly, for me, I'm a big mountain person. Seeing a volcano like that, and it really just takes your breath away. It's beautiful.
So once we finish that, we will head back. Just a little quick bus ride over to a chocolate tour at Bate Bate Chocolate. It's a very educational session. You will learn about chocolate, but then you'll also get to make your own chocolate. A very
Hmm.
energetic tour, usually a fan favorite for folks. But yeah, you can really indulge in that experience, buy a bunch of chocolate stuff to take home and whatnot. So that's always a really, really good time for folks.
Yeah, that's a blast.
Yeah, and then we'll finish that evening off at dinner at Garden Cafe. This is one of my favorite restaurants that's maybe not steak, even though I'll probably get steak, but they have a lot of great things like kombuchas, smoothies, desserts. You can see some cheesecakes, some various pies and whatnot. And I would say some would say that the coffee here is better than the coffee up at Salvanegra, but it just depends what kind of coffee you like. So it's a very cute little cafe, a lot of bowls, things like that. So it's a really great food option, but that's how we'll round out that day, which then leads us to head out to the coast. So from this point, we've been up into the mountains, we've been to the lakes, into the kind of the old historic city of Granada. So then day 5, we'll head out to Gran Pacifica. So that's right on the Pacific Ocean. So you can see some of the spectacular sunsets that you'll see while there. So we'll have that. I mean, you can walk up and down the beach all you want. Beautiful, beautiful views.
Hmm.
And then we'll get everyone checked into their lodging, and we'll do some property tours just so folks can see. These are some of our tiny homes that are pictured here, but we'll look at some single family homes and some other things that we've got going on at our property Grand Pacifica. So that will be kind of that mid-afternoon into the evening, so folks can see some of the various photos of the group from our last group. And we'll end the night with a traditional dish meal called caballo bayo. I'm not a Spanish speaker by any means, but it's really one of the, I think, a really great time for folks. Everyone kind of knows each other at that point. They've had a great time, great experiences. And then we have this very traditional Nicaraguan meal. It's awesome. I don't want to not do it justice by calling it like a taco night, but it's kind of that atmosphere. But it's a really well done dinner, and it's a really good one for a lot of folks.
Yeah. Let the hair down, have a couple cocktails. It's great.
Right. And then day 6, the next morning, we'll have some time for folks if you want to get some golf in, if you want to do some horseback riding, massage, all the various things you can do at Grand Pacifica. So we've got some free time in the morning, but we will quickly then, after that, head back to Managua, where we'll check back into the Hyatt Place. So you'll be very familiar with this spot. There are some stores. I know our last group really wanted to go to the leather store. So there's some leather stores there if you like getting wallets or bags or gifts for folks. They have some coffee and whatnot, but we'll have one other good tour, which a lot of folks also like a lot, which is the rum tour. So Jake, maybe talk us through that experience.
Yeah, so getting to do the rum tour is fantastic. They give you the history of Florida Caña, another family-owned company still to this day. It's really, really immersive. You can see on the left, you even get to try some rums. They make about, 3 different styles, additives that you can put into them. And it's taken straight out of that barrel right there. So you do it yourself. I wish I knew what the name of that long, pour stick is, lack of a better term. Pour it into your own glass, take the shot, sip on it if you'd like. It's really, really great. They take their rum very seriously, and they're a very proud company. You can tell that they really care about it. And then right there in the middle, that is their most expensive bottle of rum, and the cap right there is actually from an active volcano. That's about a 30-year aged rum. It's very expensive. I want to say at least over $1,000 per bottle. So it's a premium experience. Nobody bought the bottle while I was there last time, so maybe somebody wants to dive into something like that. But it's great. They send you home with a little goodie bag. So it's really, really great.
Mhm. Yeah, and even we have one lady on the right, Amy. She actually made her own bottle. So if you want to take home more gifts, I
Right.
bought a little sampler thing last time I was there. It had like a 11, 15, and a 30-year small little bottles, which was a great gift set for folks. So great time to get some gifts kind of while we're back in Managua, right across from the hotel. So you can bring it and just pack it and whatnot and get ready to take it home. But then we'll finish with a dinner that night, and then kind of head into the farewell. I mean, it's a really great tour. It's a short tour, but it's a long tour. There's a lot going on. A lot of folks, when they kind of have some hesitation in talking to us, hey, I'm thinking about coming, I'm not sure. But ultimately, everyone that comes down has a really good time. I mean, I would like to think that we're pretty entertaining to hang out with, but we've got some really great tour guides to learn about history, some fun experiences like the rum tour, the chocolate, and everything. So people really have a great time. So even if you're kind of hemming and hawing, I would say make the jump, take the chance, come on down. It's a really, really fun time. This isn't the only one we'll do. So if you can't make these dates for whatever reason, we'll keep you posted on the future ones. But definitely would recommend it. And that this day, I mean, I know in the past I've had flights out at 6 a.m. Sometimes I think on American there's like 2 p.m. flights. So it's kind of all over the place. But the folks that are there will have breakfast. The rest of them, we'll kind of stay around until it's their time to leave. But, day 7, a lot of folks will leave. I will say kind of another pro tip. Sometimes people say, hey, it's too short. I'm coming down. I want to see some more. Certainly welcome to stay a little bit longer, but that's just kind of the end of the programmed itinerary. So I know we might have a couple questions. I have a couple other points I wanted to make, but maybe Jake, if you want to just check the Q&A and let me know if any questions have popped in. And if you joined them maybe a couple minutes late, if you see the Q&A box at the bottom, if you're thinking about joining the tour or have some questions about Nicaragua in general, happy to get those addressed, but now is the time to do so. Or you can send us an email at webinar@ecidevelopment.com, and we will get those addressed at any other time.
Yeah, yeah. So one of the questions is what airlines typically fly into Managua?
Yeah, I don't know all of them off the top of my head, but I typically fly in through United. That's through Houston. I know that there's American as well. I believe Avianca. I don't know how many days a week they fly, and then I know Spirit kind of does as well. I don't know too many people that take that flight, but I would say the main ones that people are taking are United and American to get there. That's the best options I could recommend. But if you need any help with that kind of stuff, reach out. We're happy to do some searches to see what would be best for your trip down.
Yeah, another question from the chat is where should someone live if they potentially need cancer treatments or is departure from the country necessary?
That's a really good question. I don't know what all the JCI, the Vivian Palace that I showed kind of earlier in the slide. I don't know. I know they have really good stuff. I mean, there are some really, really high-end doctors. But if you have a certain, setup that you need, certain treatments that you need, if you send them to us, we can check it with our contacts there. I would say it's pretty likely. I mean, we do other work in other countries, and I would say, no, 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 you got to go here or there. But I would say it's a pretty good likelihood. I mean, the hospital, you'll see like the ER. I mean, they have that accreditation, which is some kind of bureaucratic accreditation that you get from the U.S. and other countries. So it's a pretty sophisticated hospital. I just don't know that specific one. So reach out to us. We're happy to get you some more details and check
Yeah,
for you. But they also at the hospital have a kind of like a health insurance program where it makes everything super inexpensive, and it's it depends on some conditions and ages and whatnot, but it's I don't know, it's like 40, $50 a month and it gets you a lot of good stuff. And they have bilingual doctors, receptionists, all that kind of stuff. So it's a really great system if you're someone who's going to be living there and need access to a pretty good hospital. So, but yeah, we'll look at that. Just let us know.
absolutely. Yep, I agree. Um, do you need to know Spanish to be on the tour?
I mean, Nicaragua
Joe, do you
definitely.
know Spanish?
No, no habla español. No, I don't speak Spanish. Our group, you'll have no problem. A lot of our attendees are North American Canadians. Um, they speak no problem English. But when you go around, I mean, certainly it would be helpful to speak some Spanish. I know when Jake, you and I were there at the mall that first night getting dinner, it was definitely helpful that you spoke some Spanish. But at our property and a lot of the places we'll go, there'll be people that speak English. But ultimately, if you're going to live there, I would certainly recommend picking up some basics because Spanish is certainly the place. But when you go to the Hyatt and you check in, the people will speak English. So yeah, that won't be a problem. But definitely in the future, I would recommend learning some.
Absolutely. So another question we've got here is for life at Grand Pacifica, is the closest area Managua for supermarkets, or are there closer options? Just wondering how the residents handle shopping with the distance from Managua.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, so one of the La Colonials, which is what we'll see kind of that first day when we're showing you around with some of the various things like the hospital. Um, there's that one, but it's a chain. So they're kind of all over Managua. And so the one that's closest to our property is about 50 minutes. A lot of the locals that live on property full time, they will either go there like once or twice a month to get kind of like canned goods, things that they want, but the majority of their food they get, we have some farmers that will come to the property once a week, or there's another one that's every other week. But they bring a lot of fresh produce. You pre-order it, so you send the guy a WhatsApp, let him know, hey, I want X, Y, and Z. He'll bring it to the property, so you don't have to do that provisioning yourself. But that's usually the fresh stuff, the stuff just picked from the gardens. So a lot of folks will kind of do both, which allows them to not have to go back to Managua. That said, if you have something very particular, if you want like a bigger, like kind of like a Costco experience, you want to go, I think there it's called Price Mart. It's like Costco, so you can shop in bulk. If you want to do that, then yeah, you got to go back to Managua. That's probably a little, it depends on traffic, but you're probably about an hour 20, depending on what's going on. But there you can do the bulk shopping. So it's close enough to Managua. You've got access to that, but we have solutions that are much better, healthier, so you have access to whatever, but it's what most people tend to do because most people like to. And it's funny because with all that, we've actually created a smaller kind of community market on property. So every Friday it's like 10 a.m. A lot of the community, some people will make breads, some people will make various like teas, like health drinks and whatnot. There was a couple making like Asian noodles and stuff like that. So it just depends. But yes, ultimately it's there if you need to have access to Managua where you can buy pretty much everything.
Absolutely. One of my favorite questions right here. Do you need to carry cash on the tour? I'll start off
And
with
Jake, I think you should answer that one.
yeah, I'll start off answering this one. To enter Managua, there is a $10 entry fee. It is a tourist entry stamp. I unfortunately did not pack any cash when I went there in March, and I learned it the hard way. It's cash only. I was standing in line going through, customs and realized I didn't have $10 cash on me. So I was, it's not a terribly long line, but about 25 minutes of standing there, I was not going back to an ATM. So luckily, I met a really nice gentleman in front of me named Danny who paid for me to enter the country. So please have $10 cash with you per person. Um, and one thing to note is that they do not do change. So please have exact. Otherwise, if you give them a 20 and you're just by yourself, they're keeping all 20. You're not getting 10 back. But otherwise, when we're there, we typically pay with our cards. Haven't had any issues with that. Obviously, let your bank know that you're going to be traveling. If your bank starts seeing stuff come up in Nicaragua unannounced, that could be an issue. But absolutely, having cash on hand is always suggested.
Yeah, and I'd bring some dollars. We will, like I said, stop at that La Colonial, that first one of our first trips where there are ATMs. I would say get some local cash just because it's nice to have some local, but I wouldn't get too much because you're not going to get an good exchange rate going home. So for that, I would just pick out maybe 100, 200 bucks, whatever you think you might spend in terms of gifts and maybe some food and whatnot. From there, you can use your US dollars, but yeah, that we can help you out with that if you need to help, exchanging some money. So definitely a good one there. Any other questions you're seeing in the chat box? I
Yeah,
have
we've got, what was that?
I have another couple things to
All
just
right.
talk about, but yeah, feel free to
Yeah.
ask questions.
We've got just a couple about home ownership. What is the typical home cost? Like the smaller ones we saw before, I think they're talking about the Ava homes.
Yeah, those range. I know we've got some that are like 130, 140, depending on the models. So we've got that. We've got individual home sites that start around 39,000. So if you want to build a custom build, we've got people that have built 5,000 square foot homes. We've got condominiums if people just want a room where they can basically lock it and leave for the nice months it is back home. We've got many different communities, so all across the board. But we do go into more specifics of that on our Nicaragua 101 thing. So just reach out and we'll send it to you so you can see all the various communities and those prices.
Yep. And yes, this webinar will be recorded, folks, and
Yep.
it'll be sent out post webinar when we finish up the recording for it.
Mhm.
Another question is, do people buy your apartments, rent them out when they're not there? Airbnb, are there restrictions?
People can certainly have them rented by our rental management, and there are other people that rent them themselves. It just depends if you're familiar with Airbnb and all that process. But we've got both. So if you want a turnkey, we can do it. If you prefer to do it, maybe your experience, you understand it, you're certainly welcome to do that. But yeah, some people do that. I mean, some people live full time in their homes, so it just depends kind of which type of person you are. Are you coming to retire? Are you coming to just relax, have a lower cost of living, or are you looking to invest? Nicaragua is maybe not the strongest country for cash flow. We do a lot in other countries, but it's great for appreciation. I mean, we've seen it. We've been developing like crazy. I mean, there's a coastal highway. There's a lot of good stuff coming to Nicaragua. I know a lot of folks watch the news and get terrified by it, but it's not what you see on the news. So that's why I always tell people, come on down. You see, the people tend to have great times, leave us great reviews. So if you're thinking about it, you're questioning things, come on down, see it for yourself. It's always great to take a first trip down just to see whether you'd like it. Because whether you're an investor or whether you're, someone who's going to be living there full time, you certainly want to see whether it's the right country for you.
hmm Another question is, are there any harbors for boat ownership? No, not at Grand Pacifica itself, right?
We have, we have 2,500 acres and we've probably developed about 15% of it. So we still have a long ways to go. Future plans, we do have envisioned a little bit of a harbor there, but no, it doesn't exist now. It's probably not going to exist for many more years until we get to that part of the property. With that, I think maybe there is one about an hour and a half away, but I don't know it, very well. So, but that's all I know at the moment.
Right. Okay. And is it cheap to be in Nicaragua itself?
Yeah, I mean, certainly when you're in Managua, you can see some like at the mall, there might be some more expensive things you'll see there. But when Jake made that reference about eating steak like every meal, I mean, it's like 12 bucks or 15
Yeah.
bucks. It depends on the place, but whereas when you go to steaks in the US and places, you're spending 50, 60, 80, 100 bucks or whatever. So yeah, cost of living is very inexpensive. So it just depends. The local currency to the dollar is like 36 point something to one. So your dollar definitely goes quite far. So, but we also, and I will mention, anyone who signs up, and we've got about 6 spots remaining. So if you want to join this tour in August, I would certainly recommend, and we'll send it in the follow-up email, the link to register. So if you're thinking about it, certainly love to have you, but that will be in there. But Angie, who will send that out, will have kind of like an FAQ, some guides, some information, like Jake mentioned, the $10, just so you can kind of know what's going to go on. But if you have questions, that's what we're here for, to answer them. Just any kind of logistics, we'll be glad to help you out there.
Absolutely. Yeah. Are there any HOA fees on tiny homes and other structures? And that all depends on which home that you're looking at.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, Joe, you
Yeah.
want to touch on
Yeah,
that?
I was just gonna say, I've talked to tons and tons of clients over the years, and everyone bashes HOAs, and I do understand it, but when you're in Central America, it's very different. I mean, unless you're living in a home miles and miles away from other people, and that's what you like. But if you want a community where, the sidewalks are going to be maintained, your trash is going to be picked up so it's not burned and smelling like garbage every day. If you want security, if you want potable water and water pressure. I mean, those are kind of things that like someone's got to do. And so the HOAs, really keep your property value nice, so that it's not just some overgrown jungle when you come every 6 months or something like that. So they do exist, but they're very minimal. I mean, they're just covering those costs. So you're seeing them at like 148 a month in our tiny homes, and I think they go up depending on the size and the community. But for that price, you're getting all that, which is quite crucial, especially whether you're living there and you don't want to do all those chores, or whether you're going to be like an investor and you don't have to worry about your property being taken over by wildlife. So yes, but we talk a little bit more about that, but we're happy to send you any specifics about whatever community you're wondering about.
Yeah, so I'll take one more question here from the chat. And then folks, if you have any, more specific questions, I highly recommend, reaching out to us at webinar@ecidevelopment.com, and or, watching some of our previous webinars. Joe and I hosted one, like you said, a few weeks ago. That's way more in depth about Grand Pacifica itself and everything like that. So, for those who can't make the tour, what's the best option for a later visit?
I would say reach out to us. I mean, the tour is when we just have, kind of like the bandwidth in terms of people to do this. But you can come down at any point. I mean, we have a rental management team. We have people on the ground. We can show you around. So, if you're sick or injured or whatever, and you need to do it in 6 months from now, we will have more tours. So reach out if you like to be in a tour setting. If you'd rather just come on your own time whenever it's convenient, just let us know. We'll be happy to set you up. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be these tours. We just, I think a lot of folks don't really know what to expect. So I wanted to do something so they could visually see what they're going to see, where they're going to be. So that way, when you get there, you're like, oh, I remember this island tour. But probably the group setting is maybe a little bit more fun, just because you meet other people. Usually by like the second or third night, someone's ordering bottles of wine and having like maybe a little bit too much fun. But I think that is a fun setting. But if those don't work for you, just let us know. We'll be happy to coordinate, a private tour. So just keep us posted where you're at with that.
Yeah, one thing I just wanted to touch on. I will be down there, folks, August 10th through 16th with you. It's laid back, it's fun, it's very immersive. You get to see a lot of the country and then really kind of dive in more on the specifics on Grand Pacifica, when we get to that point. But when you have free time, take advantage of it. At night, there's nobody telling you you're on a curfew. If you want to go walk around downtown Granada, please do so. It's a beautiful, safe area. I walked around it all night with some of the, people that joined us on our previous one. So it's very, very fun. I really hope that some of you can come join us. I'd love to meet you.
I will say one other question I just thought of in talking to clients. We've had kids. People ask about kids all the time. I wouldn't bring a toddler, but any kids are certainly welcome. We had a 9-year-old on our last trip. He
Right.
loved the chocolate tour. And every
Yes.
time his parents turned his back, he was ordering another smoothie, fruit drink, whatever it was. I don't know what he racked up in terms of a bill, but kids tend to love it. There's the one bus ride. It's about 3.5, 4 hours with a stop in there for the bathroom. So maybe some kids wouldn't like that, but it's certainly a very pleasant trip for kids. So just let us know. But yeah, that would be my recommendation. But I just wanted to bring that up because I just thought about it and it's something people like to talk about. So
Right. Again, well, folks, if you have any more questions, please email us. We're happy to dive in with you on more specifics, more in depth to make sure that you understand everything. Okay. Anything else for you, Joe?
yeah, no, well, thanks everyone for joining. I know a handful of people have already signed up that are really good folks, so I think it's going to be a really, really fun tour. August definitely is a little bit rainier. I will mention that it's kind of the tail end of rainy season, so definitely bring something for that. But it's a great time. People say, "Why are you doing it in the rain?" Well, because guess what? If you come down and you like it and have a good time, in the rainy season, you're going to love the rest of the year. So it's not going to be the end all and ruin every day. I mean, it rains for like a little bit, but then you'll have plenty of great sun when you're there. But yeah, it's a great time to come down. Great group forming. So we love to have you. A couple spots, 6 spots remaining. So let us know. And if you can't make this one, there'll be a future one, but I think it's always a good time. So thanks for joining us tonight. We'll get the recording out to you guys. And if any other questions pop up, you know how to find us. So thank you for your time and we'll see you on the next webinar.
Yep. Thank you, folks. I'll see you down in Nicaragua with me. Y'all have a great rest of your night.
Bye.